Hi my dear friends, welcome back to another Python tutorial class, and in this class we shall discuss in depth about lists. Now already we know this, list is mutable. List is mutable means once defined can be modified also. That is, the memory ID won't change, address won't change, a new object won't be created. In that very same object only modification can be done, so the ID remains the same. That is the mutability concept. So here in this cell you can see L is equals to, then here you have a list. Inside the list you have these values 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So just print these values L and then type of L, ID of L. So here as you can see the list is printed. And what is the type? What is the type of this? It is a class list. That means the object is a list. Type L. Type L means what kind of an object it is. It is a list object. Okay. And here you can see correspondingly you have the memory ID. That is ID of L gives you the memory ID or memory address of this particular object where it has been created. Now here in line number 4, if you can see L3 is equals to 400. That means at the third index position of L, I'm doing modification. How? Now at the third index position, right now what is the value? This is the 0th index position, first index position, second index position, third index position. At third index position, you have the value of 40. So at third index position, I am basically replacing this 40 by the value of 400. Okay. At the third index position, of L, I am inserting the value of 40. I'm inserting the value of 400 that basically substitutes or replaces this value of 40. So 40 will be replaced by 400 at third index position of L. And now when I basically print L and ID of L and I basically run it, you see the list is printed again. Every time you run, ID will change, but the ID will remain the same in case of list. Like here, this is the memory ID which happened before the modification. Like L is equals to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. The list is printed and this is the memory ID where it got created. Then at the third index position of the list, I inserted 400 that would replace the 40. So at third index position, no longer 40 will be there, rather 400 will be there. Now if I print L comma ID of L and run this, then you can see here you have a list 10, 20, 30, and then 40 has been replaced by 400 at the third index position. Rest values, they remain the same. And here you see memory ID remains the same. Whatever it is, here also the same thing. Okay, memory ID didn't change. That is why we call list as mutable. What are the immutable data types? The immutable data types are string, tuple, frozen set. Okay. Now, what are the ways for creating a list? There are several ways of creating a list. Like way number 1. Here again, you have the variable L to which a list is assigned. Inside this list, you have these values: false, coding, analytic, 4, 20 plus 30j, then this tuple 2, 7, 11, then this set 21, 23, 25. Okay. Now, if I print L comma type L, I get this list only. So simply, what I have to do is I have to basically place all those values inside the square brackets. So whenever I enclose all the values within these square brackets, I get a list. This is a way, or way number 1, to create a list. Second way, is another way where we can use our list function. List function or list method is a way in which we can basically typecast an object into a list. So first of all, just to recap iterables. What do you mean by iterables? If you remember from our previous classes, these are the examples of iterables like string, list, tuple, set, frozen set, dictionary, range, bytes, byte array. Now here you have a string value, that is world, assigned to this variable str1, print str1 and you get world. So what kind of an object right now it is? It is a string object. This str1 is right now a string object. There is this variable is right now a string object because it holds a string value. Now what I do is this: at line number 4, I write L is equals to list. This list is a method. List is a predefined method inside Python which is used for typecasting an object into the list type object or list type data type. Now, this is a list function or list method which is by default as available in Python as a predefined function or predefined method. Inside this list function, you have to pass your iterable. That is the variable str1 which holds the string value. So what it will do is this list method, it will typecast this str1 into a list object or list data type. And when you print this l comma type l, then what you will get? You will get list. That is this opening bracket and this closing bracket. Definitely these are the square brackets. Inside them we'll have these elements of the string, because we know what this list function will do is that each and every element, each and every character, each and every character of this string value will become an element of the list. Each and every character of the string value will become an element of the list. Like W is the first character, it becomes the first element of the list. Then O is the second character, O becomes the second element of the list. R is the third character, R becomes the third element of the list. L is the fourth character, it becomes the fourth element of the list. D is the fifth character, D becomes the fifth element of the list. So each and every character of the string value will be converted into the element of a list. Okay, so overall here you have the list. Inside the list you have these words. Inside this list you have these characters being separated out as separate elements. So how many elements this list has got? Five elements. One, two, three, four, five. And all these elements are separated from each other by the commas. Like here you have comma, then here you have comma. Okay, like this. Then the next cell, here you have a tup, that is variable, and to which tuple has been assigned 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Just print this tuple and you get this 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. What kind of an object it is? Tuple, because the class is tuple. Okay. Now here I want to convert this tuple data type or tuple object into a list object or list data type. And for this, what I will do, I will use the list method or list function again. And inside the list method, I will pass this tup variable, which basically holds a tuple object or tuple data type. And then what it will do is that this tuple will be converted into a list thanks to the list method. And if you print l comma type l, you get the value of l. What will this l be? This l will be nothing but a list. Okay, comma type l, when you do, it will give you the type of l, which is nothing but your list. What kind of an object it is? It is object list. Or what kind of data type it is? It is a list data type. And here you can see first element of the tuple has been now converted as first element of the list. Second element of tuple has been converted into the second element of the list. Third element of tuple has been converted into third element of list, and so on. Like 400 has been converted as the fourth element of the list. 500 now becomes the fifth element of the list. Okay. Now here you have a variable dic, and it is equals to, here you have curly braces opening, here you have the closing curly brace. Inside them we have these values. 10 is to 1000, key is to value. That means you must have understood that I'm talking about a dictionary. This is a dictionary here. 10 is to 1000, where 10 is the key, 1000 is the value. 20 is to 2000, 20 is to 2000, 20 is the key, 2000 is the value. 30 is to 3000. This is the 30 is the key, 3000 is the value. So this is the 10 is to 1000 is the first element, where 10 is the key, 1000 is the value. 20 is to 2000 is the second element of the dictionary, where 20 is the key, 2000 is the value. 30 is to 3000 is the third element of the dictionary, where 30 is the key, 3000 is the value. If you print this, you get this dictionary only, and gives you the class which is dict means dictionary. Now if I basically use the list method, and inside this list method I pass this dictionary and everything I assign to this variable l, and then print l comma type l, if I do, you see this dictionary has been now converted or typecasted into a list. Okay, type l gives you class list. First of all, the value of l is printed. L is nothing but your list. L is nothing but your list. And what does this list contain? This list will contain only the keys. This list will contain only the keys. What are the keys? 10, 20, 30. And type of L will give you the class, that is what kind of an object or data type it is. It is list data type or list object. Okay. Now if I want to get this happens by default. Like when you apply this list method or list function on a dictionary, then you will get a list, but this list will only have the keys, not the values. So explicitly, you will have to mention that if you want to enclose the values also inside the list coming from the dictionary, then explicitly you have to mention that. So again, I basically use right here L is equals to, then right here the list method or list function, so that it can basically typecast the dictionary into the list format. And inside the list, I'm passing dic just like here, dic. Okay, dic dot values. So if I apply this, if I write dic dot values, then what will happen? Only the values of the dictionary will be taken and converted into a list. So if you print L comma type L, here I get a list consisting only of the values of the dictionary 1000, 2000, 3000, and the class list. Okay, just you can run this. Then coming on to the next cell, staff. It's a variable. Again, inside this, I am passing a dictionary here, as you can see, opening curly brace and closing curly brace. My name is to Ankit. So my name here, these are again random names and random values, random keys I've taken just for your explanation purposes, education purposes. So this is the key, my name, and this is the value, Ankit. Okay, so this value, Ankit, is keyed or mapped to this key, my underscore name. Then this is the second key, my underscore age is to 36. This is the value. So this 36 is the value mapped to this key, my underscore age. Then my underscore location is to Mumbai. The next key is to value pair. My underscore org means my underscore organization, in which organization the employee is, suppose. Okay. So my underscore org is to XYZ. So this is another keys to value pair. So how many keys to value pairs we have got? One keys to value pair. Then the second keys to value pair. Then the third keys to value pair. And then the fourth keys to value pair. Okay, that means four elements. This dictionary contains four elements. Keys to value, one keys to value pair is an element in case of dictionary. So just print stuff comma type stuff and you get this dictionary only, class dict. Now what I do is keys is a variable. It is equals to list method I use. Inside this list method, I pass staff. So that means I'm trying to typecast or convert the dictionary into a list data type. Now, since I'm just mentioning staff, so what will happen? You will get a list. You will get a list, but that will contain only the keys. Okay. Now, anyways, the entire thing is assigned to these variable keys. Now, print keys, comma type keys, and here you can see we get a list. List method has been able to convert the dictionary into a list, and here you get the list. Opening square bracket and closing square bracket. Okay, what type of keys means what kind of an object or data type it is. It is list, and inside this list, as you can see, you have only the keys. My name. There's my underscore name, my underscore age, my underscore location, my underscore org. Okay, just like these keys I'm talking about, my underscore name, my underscore age, my underscore location, my underscore org. Now, if I want the values also, then explicitly you will have to mention. So here I've written a variable values is equals to then list. Inside the list, you have to pass staff dot values. Now the values of the dictionary shall be converted into a list. That is, now we will get a list by the name of values, inside which you will have the values of the dictionary. And print values comma type values, here you get the list. Inside this list you get the values of the dictionary. You see the values Ankit, 36, Mumbai, XYZ, and what type it is of class list. Okay, just run this. Name stuff is not defined. Okay, you have to run this cell, then this cell. Okay, now coming down here you have a set S1. It is equals to curly brace here again, but here inside this curly braces we don't have any kind of keys to value pairs. We have simply these integer values like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So these are set. Print this set, and we know set is random. It does not follow any sequencing, does not follow any indexing, does not allow duplicate values. So here the values will be printed in random order. This is the set only, but printed in random order. That is the characteristic of a set. Class set here you get. Now convert this set into a list. So apply the list method. Inside this you pass S1 variable, assign the entire thing to L, so you will get a list. Print L comma type L and you get a list here. Okay, you see inside this list we have got the elements of the set. It's class list. Okay, just run this. Now here suppose you have a variable x is equals to range, and then inside the range I pass these values 2 comma 11 comma 2. So we have discussed this range thing in many number of times. What it will be like 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Internally that won't be displayed directly. So if you just print x comma type x, you will get this range only 2 comma 11 comma 2 classes range. But if I want to filter out these values, then for that I can apply the list method or the list function by passing the variable x inside it. So L is equals to list x. It will now give you all these internal values of the range. Now print L comma type L. If you do, first of all, here you see you get a list thanks to the list method. It is used to typecast the entire thing into a list, and then inside the list you get these values 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 classes list. Okay, just run this. Just for example, only here I've written list directly. Also, you can do list. Inside this list, you can pass the range function, range 1 comma 21. That means it will go from 1 to 20 in the steps of 1. And to display all these values in sequential order, outside apply this list method or list function. Here we get a list from 1 to 20. Okay, I run this. In the next element, you see x is equals to 140. This is what? This is an integer only. This variable x right now is nothing but an integer only, holding an integer value. If I apply list on x, then I get an error here, because here you can see the explanation is given. Int object is not an iterable. So basically, only if you want to typecast, if you want to do typecasting conversion into the list format, then you will have to pass only the iterables like string, list, tuple, dictionary set, frozen set, range, bytes, byte array, but integer is not an iterable. Okay, that's why you get an error here. Now similarly here I try to pass this float, x is equals to 4.5. Is this a float value, float object? Is this an iterable? It is not an iterable. So if I want to typecast this into list by using list, then pass x inside it, I will get an error again, type error. What type of error it is? That float object is not an iterable. Okay. Then in the next couple of very important methods are there. Number one, filter method. Just try to pay attention to it. Filter method, what does it say? Filter method, sorry, yeah. Filter method filters out the values of an iterable. Okay, again I'm just trying to highlight it. Filter method filters out the values of an iterable on the ground of some condition, and it returns a filter object. So basically filter is a method via which it can basically filter out the elements or values of an iterable on the basis of some condition, and from this filter method you will always get a filter object. In the next line, to acquire the elements from the filter object, we use the list function. Now, if I want to fetch the elements from the filter object, I will have to use the list function. So, this will be cleared by the help of an example only. Here you have a variable tup, it is equals to, and here you have a tuple. Tuple, okay. Inside this tuple, you have these values 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. In the next line, I'm writing this variable fil is equals to, then this filter method I'm writing. Now there is a format. When you're trying to write the filter method, then there is a format inside it which you have to follow. It is nothing but inside the filter method you have to write lambda. What is lambda? That I will come down in the later classes. For right now, you can remember that, or right now you can just try to learn that lambda is an anonymous function. Lambda is an anonymous function. Okay. So this is the filter method. Inside the filter method, I'm writing lambda, then giving space y is to is to y mod 2 equal to 0, comma tup. So what will happen here is, first of all, here you have this tuple. This entire tuple will be passed here. This entire tuple will be passed here. That means this entire tuple containing these values from 10 to 100 will be passed here. Now one by one the values will come here. Lambda y, in place of y, what will happen? In place of y, you will get 10. Now this 10 will go, this 10 will be, this 10 will go through the modulo operation. Modulo operation means, if you remember, we get only the remainder. Okay, so this will be 10 modulo 2. What is 10 modulo 2? We know that 10 modulo 2 is nothing but 0. 0 is the remainder. Internally, what happens? 10 divided by 2. What will be the remainder? Remainder will be 0. So y mod 2 will be 0. So 0 equal to 0. Yes, condition is true. Okay, condition is true. So this 10 will be now stored inside the filter object. Filter object is being created with the help of this filter method, and filter object is nothing but your fill. This variable fill is now a filter object. Okay. Then the next value passed will be, like the entire tuple is here right now internally speaking. Then the next value will be passed and accordingly tested. 20. 20 is taken and passed here. So lambda, then here in place of y you will have 20 is to 20 mod 2 equal to 0. Yes, 20 mod 2 equal to 0, because 20 divided by 2, what will be the remainder? Remainder will be 0. Modulo operation gives you the remainder only. So here in the LHS you will have 0 equal to 0 on the RHS, 0 equal to 0. Yes, so 20 will be also stored. Condition is satisfied here. Okay. Here I have not given any if. Here I have not given any if, else, nothing. Directly like this lambda function. If this condition is satisfied, LHS equals to RHS, then that means the value which has been passed here shall be taken into consideration, and that value will be stored inside the fill object. Okay. Then again 30 modulo 2 equal to 0. Yes. Same for 40, same for 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 up to 100. All these values will pass this criteria because all these values are even numbers divisible by 2. So that's why the remainder on the LHS will be always 0 for each of these values, which will be equal to 0 on the right hand side. And so fill object will contain all these values. The fill object will contain all these values. Okay. So this was the condition here. This was the condition here, and this is the format for filter method. Lambda, then y is to, then the same variable. If you have written here y, then after the is to there is the double colon. After that you have to use the same variable again, y only. Like here I have written y, and here if I write x, then I will get error. Nothing, because x holds nothing. X holds nothing. Okay. Now if I give y here, then I will get my requisite answers. Anyways, this is the fill. This fill is the filter object. So print fill comma type fill, if you do, then here you get your filter object. This is the filter object. Print fill. Print fill comma type fill. What will it will do? First of all, print fill will give this thing, filter object, at this particular memory address. This is a hexadecimal memory address. This one is a hexadecimal memory address. Okay. Type of fill, it is nothing but filter. Type of fill is nothing but filter. It is a filter object. Filter data type belongs to the class filter. Okay. But we directly cannot see or access the values of this filter object. So in order to fetch the elements from the filter object, we can use the list method or list function. So here L is equals to list. Inside the list function I pass this fil, which is your filter object. Now this list method will be able to, now with the help of this list method we will be able to acquire the elements from the filter object. And everything is assigned to L. So L is now a list object. Print L comma type L. Here you see you get a list. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. What data type it belongs to? Class list. Okay. So just run this. Already we ran this. So please remember that here if you have given this variable name y, here also the same variable name y. Here if I give x, then here also you have to give x. Okay. And this format you have to remember. Lambda variable is 2, then the variable mod 2 equals to 0, comma the iterable. That is at the end you have this iterable, and then before that you have to give comma before the iterable, and then before the comma you have to give this lambda function. Okay. Then the next method is your map method. Next method is your map method. What does this map method do? You see, map method maps the values of an iterable with respect to an expression and returns a map object. So map is a method which basically will yield a map object, and its job is to basically map out the values of an iterable with respect to a particular expression that you have to give. Then in the next line, to acquire the elements from the map object, we use the list function. Now again, just like your filter object, in case of map object also, if you want to acquire the elements from the map object, you will have to use the list function. Like here, when I tried to print fill, then I did not get the values of the filter object fill directly. Rather, what message got displayed? Now, this is a filter object which is at this particular memory address, hexadecimal memory address. But I didn't get the elements of this filter object directly. For that, I use this list typecasting. List method for typecasting, that is for conversion, and then I was able to acquire the values of the filter object directly. Okay. Now, in case of map method also, we have to use the list method or function. Now again, here you have that same tuple, only tup is equals to, here you have this tuple fil fill is equals to map, this map method or function that we were talking about. Previously, in the previous cell, I used filter. Now here you have to use map. Then inside the map method means, for map method you have to give this opening bracket and closing bracket. Inside these brackets you have to give the lambda function. In which format? Now see, lambda lambda y is to y to the power 2. Here you see y, and then here you have asterisk asterisk, and then 2. That means y to the power 2. This is the exponent operation, to the power, comma, comma. Then at the end you have to pass this iterable. What iterable? Tuple iterable, which is your tuple object, which is stored here. Tup. Okay. Now, don't get confused here. Here, I was giving a condition that y mod 2 equal to 0. That means if LHS, y mod 2, whatever value will be yielded, it will be obtained at the left hand side LHS equal to right hand side RHS. At the right hand side, you have value. If the LHS equals to RHS, then the condition is satisfied and the corresponding value passed here will be stored, otherwise not. But here, this is simply an expression, not any kind of condition. Okay, this is the difference. As I told you, in map method, it basically will map out the values of an iterable with respect to a particular expression, and it returns a map object. So here we are not giving any condition, rather we are giving an expression, y to the power 2. Okay. So what will happen here is this tuple will be passed first of all here. Tuple will be passed, then one by one each and every value will be taken up. Like the first value is 10. So lambda y. Here lambda is a function, anonymous function. In place of y you have 10 is to y is 10 only. 10 to the power 2. 10 to the power 2 is what? 100, isn't it? Anyways, that value, whatever value it will be, that will be stored inside the fill object, which is now a map object. This fill is now a map object. Then the next value will be passed, which is your 20. From here, the next value will be passed, so you will have 20 to the power 2. Then the next value 30, so 30 to the power 2, dot dot dot, in this way up to 100. So 40 to the power 2, 50 to the power 2, 60 to the power 2, 70 to the power 2, 80 to the power 2, 90 to the power 2, 100 to the power 2. All these values will be passed here inside the map method, and they will be squared, that is to the power 2, and accordingly stored inside this FIL, which is your map object. Now if I print FIL, that is fill, comma type fill, then this FIL is nothing but your map object. Print fill first of all will happen, which will give that what kind of an object it is. It is a map object stored at this particular memory address, which is a hexadecimal memory address. And type fill will give you what kind of data type it is. Map object, that is map data type. Okay. Now I didn't get the values here. I didn't get the values directly. FIL, we know it stores the values. What values? The squared values. Okay, we couldn't fetch those values directly. So to fetch those values directly from the map object, we have to use this list method again. So write L is equals to list. Inside the list method, pass this fill object. Now print L comma type L. If you do, here you see you get a list. Here you see you get a list. Inside this list, what we have got? We have got the squared values of all the tuple values. Okay, like what tuple value we had initially? We had 10, then we have 20, 10 square is 100, 20 square is 400, 30 square is 900, 40 square is 1600, like this. 50 square is 2500, 60 square is 3600, dot dot dot. 100 square is nothing but your 10,000. Okay, so respective 10 square is 100, 20 square is 400, 30 square is 900, like this will go 40 square, 50 square, 60 square, 70 square, 80 square, 90 square, and 100 square. And what kind of a object it is? List data type. Okay, just run this. This one is not record. This we have already seen in our previous classes. Then the next method is your enumerate method. What is this enumerate method? Let us see. Enumerate method yields an enumerate object. First of all, enumerate method yields an enumerate object. Then the next, this method maps the elements of the iterable, mapping them to integers ranging from 0 to length of the iterable minus 1. So what this method will do is that it will simply map out the elements of the iterable to what? Mapping will be done to something. So here the elements of the iterable will be mapped. Mapped to what? They will be mapped to the numbers ranging from 0 to length of iterable minus 1. Okay. We will see this by an example. To fetch the elements from the enumerate object, we can use the list function and we get list of tuples. Now, just like your previous objects, for example, filter and map, directly we couldn't get the values. So to fetch those values, here also in case of enumerate method, when it yields an enumerate object, then we can fetch the elements from the enumerate object by using the list function. And when that happens, we get a list of tuples. Let us see how it works out. str1 is equals to coding. This is a string value. These are string value. Now, what are the elements of the string value? Or like this is the first element of the string, second element of the string, third element, fourth element, fifth element, sixth element of the string. So totally you can say there are 6 elements of the string value or 6 characters. So what will be the index position? This will be at 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, isn't it? This is the last element or last character of the string value, and this is the 6th element of the string value. And what will be its index position? Length of iterable. Length of iterable means ln of str1. So that means length of this, which will be nothing but your 6. How many elements it has got? Minus 1. So 6 minus 1 is 5. That will be the stop index position or last index position of the last element. Now here I write nu. Nu is equals to enumerate method I write. That is the enumerate function. Inside this method or function, I pass this str1 variable, which is nothing but your string object. So now enumerate method, what it will do is that it will basically apply enumeration on str1, and here nu will be nothing but your enumerate object. This nu is nothing but your enumerate object. Print nu comma type nu, if you do, here you see print nu first of all will be executed, which lists that it is an enumerate object produced at this particular memory address 0x all these zeros 22, and then type of nu, then type of nu, which is nothing but your enumerate. Now L is equals to list. Inside list I pass nu. I didn't get the values of nu directly. If I want to fetch the elements from nu, which is an enumerate object, then I have to use the list method or list function, that is list typecasting. So you have to write list. Inside this list you have to pass nu. Now print L comma type L, if you do, what will happen is list will be obtained. First of all, here opening square bracket, closing square bracket, so you have a list. Inside this list you will get all these tuples. That's why it was written here, like to fetch the elements from the enumerate object, we can use the list function and we get list of tuples. Here you have list of tuples. List of tuples. Here you see inside this list, this is the first tuple 0 comma c, then the next tuple 1 comma o, then the next tuple 2 comma d, then the next tuple 3 comma I, then the next tuple 4 comma n, and the next tuple 5 comma g. Now how these 0 1 2 3 4 5 are coming? First of all, you see, this is the first element. Okay, mapped to its first index position. Then the second element mapped to its corresponding index position. So you see, C here is mapped to its index position 0. O here is mapped to its index position 1. Correspondingly, you can see D, which is the third element. It is basically mapped to its index position 2. Here you see, D is mapped to index position 2. Then here you have I. Here you have I. Okay. I is mapped to its corresponding index position, which is, 3. I is mapped to its index position 3. Then what is the next element? N. What is the index position of N? It is 4. So here you can see N is mapped to its index position 4. Then what is the last element? G. What is its index position? 5. So you can see G is mapped to its index position 5. How this mapping is happening, as I told you, this method maps the elements of the iterable, mapping them to numbers ranging from 0 to length of iterable minus 1. 0 to length of iterable minus 1. This is where you will get your length of iterable minus 1. Okay, because ultimately len, what is the iterable here? str1. Okay, str1, what will be this? 6. So ultimately you have len of str1 minus 1, which is equals to 6 minus 1 is equals to 5. So the number will start from 0, it will go up to 5. How you get that? Length of iterable minus 1. Okay, 5 will be the index position of the last element. So each and every element here is mapped to its own corresponding index position, and that's what you get. This is the first tuple, second tuple, third tuple, fourth tuple, fifth tuple, sixth tuple. Okay, inside a list you get this list of tuples. Just try to run this cell. Yeah, then the next method is your zip method. Next method is your zip method. It sequentially maps each iterables elements one after the other. It gives back a zip object. So what this zip method does is that it basically maps all the elements of all the iterables one by one in sequence, and then it gives back a zip object. We can send a zip object to the list in order to retrieve its contents. Just like the previous cases, now if you want to fetch the elements of the zip object, you have to use the list function, and then a list of tuples is returned when a zip object is passed to the list function. So ultimately here also you will get a list of tuples. In case of filter and map, we just got the lists. In case of filter, we got a list. In case of map, we got list. In case of enumerate, we got list of tuples. In case of zip also, we always get list of tuples. And zip will basically, map all the elements of all the iterables one by one in sequence and return a zip object. Now if you want to fetch the elements from the zip object, you can pass the zip object to the list method for typecasting, and then you will get a list of tuples. Okay, so first of all, here you see my underscore zip, it is a variable. It is equals to, then here I'm writing this zip method or zip function. Inside this zip method, my first iterable is this string. String as an iterable, this is the first iterable, which is a string, that is nothing but your coding. Comma, then I'm giving my second iterable. Here of my second iterable. This second iterable is nothing but your tuple. This second iterable is nothing but your tuple. Inside this, you have these values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what will happen is, here you have the first iterable, and here you have the second iterable. What are the elements of the first iterable? This is an element, this is another element, next element, next element, and the last element of the first iterable, which is a string. Okay, so these are the elements of the iterable. C is an element, O is an element, D is an element, I is an element, N is an element, G is an element. Similarly, for this tuple also, it has got 6 number of elements. Like this is the first element, second element, third element, fourth element, fifth element, sixth element. These values only. Okay. So zip will, what it will do, it will basically map all these elements of all the iterables one by one in sequence. That means C, it will be mapped to 1. That will be your first tuple. Then O will be mapped to, 2. That will be your second tuple. D will be mapped to 3. That will be your third tuple. I will be mapped to 4. That will be your fourth tuple. then n will be mapped to 5, fifth tuple, and g will be mapped to 6, that will be your sixth tuple. Okay. Anyways, now print my underscore zip comma type my underscore zip. So first of all, print my underscore zip will give you the zip object. That is, my underscore zip is nothing but a zip object which you get at this particular memory address. And what class it belongs to? Class zip. Type of my underscore zip is nothing but your class zip only. It is a zip object. Okay. Now, in the next line, L is equals to list my underscore zip. Here, I couldn't get the elements of the zip object directly. Here, I couldn't get the elements of the zip object directly. Now, to get or fetch the elements of the zip object, you will have to use the list method or list function for typecasting into a list. So, L is equals to list. Inside this list, you pass this zip object, which is your my underscore zip, and now print L comma type L. So what happens here is you get this list of tuples. Here you see inside the first of all you have list. Inside this list you have got all these tuples. This is a tuple c comma 1. Where it's coming from? Now this is the first iterable's first element mapped with the first element of the second iterable. This is the first element of the first iterable mapped with the first element of the second iterable. C is mapped to 1, and this is your first tuple, comma, then this will be your second tuple. Inside the second tuple, what happens is the second element of the first iterable is a string. The second element of the first iterable is mapped to the second element of the second iterable. O is mapped to 2. So here you get O comma 2. Like this, you get the next element of this first iterable accordingly, sequentially, is mapped to the third element of the second iterable. So here you get your third, D comma 3. Then this is the fourth element, I. Here I is the fourth element of the first iterable. It will be mapped to the fourth element of the second iterable in sequence. So I will be mapped to 4. Here you get your fourth tuple. Then N. Here you get N. N is the fifth element of the first iterable, and it is mapped to the fifth element of the second iterable, N comma 5. So this becomes your fifth tuple. And then G. G is your sixth element of the first iterable mapped to the sixth element of the second iterable. So here you get G comma 6. So here you get list of tuples. You run this, you get this. Okay. Now if I write this my underscore zip is equals to, then I write zip. Inside this zip, I again pass the same iterable, which is a string consisting of this value coding. Okay. Inside this string object, how many elements you have got? 6 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, comma, then after this first iterable you give the second iterable. Second iterable here also is a tuple consisting of 1 comma 2 comma 3. These are the values. So how many elements for this tuple, which is the second iterable? You have got 3 elements. You have got how many elements? Here you have got 6 elements. You have got previously here we had 6 elements for the first iterable and 6 elements for the second iterable. Also sequentially they were mapped. Here you have 6 elements of the first iterable, and here you have 6 elements of the first iterable and 3 elements of the second iterable. They will be also mapped in sequence. You see, C will be mapped to 1, then O will be mapped to 2, and D will be mapped to 3. Nothing to map for ing. Nothing to map for ing. So they will be left out. Here mapping is happening sequentially. Definitely mapping happens sequentially. It will map all the elements of all the iterables one by one in sequence. Okay. So print my underscore zip comma type my underscore zip. Print my underscore zip will give you this, which is a zip object at this memory address. Type my underscore zip will give you the class, which is a zip. It is a zip object. Now L is equals to list. Inside the list method or function, I pass this my underscore zip, which is your zip object. Because I have not got the values of the zip object directly, so I have to use the list method or function for typecasting. Print L comma type L when you do, then here you get the list of tuples. Here we get the list of tuples. Type L class list, that is, and here we get list of tuples. So inside this list you get the first tuple C comma 1. Okay, C comma 1. Here this C first element of the first iterable is mapped to 1, which is the first element of the second iterable, comma, then the second tuple you get O comma 2. O is the second element of the first iterable mapped to 2, which is the second element of the second iterable. Okay. O is the second element of the first iterable mapped to 2, which is the second element of the second iterable. Here you get the second tuple. Then D comma 3. D comma 3 will be coming from here. Here you have D comma 3. Third element of the first iterable mapped to third element of the second iterable. So here you get D comma 3 inside the list. So you get list of tuples. ing are left out. ing are left out. Okay. Then the next is again my underscore zip is equals to, here you have zip, and now inside this zip method I'm passing the first iterable, which is a string. How many characters it has got? 3 characters, that is 3 elements, COD, comma, here I am passing the second iterable. Inside the second iterable, it has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 values it has got. That means 8 number of elements it has got. So here if I apply the zip, C will be mapped to 1, O will be mapped to 2, and D it will be mapped to 3. D will be mapped to 3. Same, rest is the same logic. Here you see, after applying the zip method, here we get list of tuples, and here C is mapped to 1, then your O is mapped to 2, and then D is mapped to 3. Okay, just run this cell. Then here again, my underscore zip is equals to, then here have the zip method or function. Here you have the first iterable, which is a string value consisting of this word coding. So how many elements we have here for the string iterable? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 elements. 6 elements this first iterable has got. That is this string. How many number of elements inside this first iterable we have got? 6 number of elements, because 6 characters. Okay, first iterable is a string, comma. Then here you have the second iterable, which is a tuple, 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5 comma 6. And here you have comma. When you give comma, now here I'm passing a third iterable. Here I'm passing a third iterable, which is a list. Inside this list, how many elements it has got? First element, which is W, second element X, third element, which is Y, fourth element, which is Z. So now, as I told you, zip is used to map all the elements of all the iterables one by one in sequence. So first element of the first iterable mapped with first element of the second iterable mapped with first element of the third iterable, and that will be your first tuple C comma 1 comma W, comma, comma, then here you have second element of the first iterable mapped with the second element of the second iterable mapped with the second element of the third iterable, that is O comma 2 comma X. Here you get your second tuple. Okay, then the next, here D is the third element. So third element of the first iterable mapped with third element of the second iterable mapped with third element of the third iterable. So D comma 3 comma Y. D comma 3 comma Y. Okay, comma, then this was your third tuple D3Y. This is a third tuple. Then for the fourth tuple, then for the fourth tuple, what will happen? Fourth element is I. Okay, fourth element of the first iterable mapped with fourth element of the second iterable mapped with fourth element of the third iterable, that is I mapped with 4 mapped with Z. So I comma 4 comma Z, I comma 4 comma Z, this is the last tuple that you get. Okay, and see, coding, it had 6 elements, this tuple had 6 elements, but this one had minimum number of elements. Out of the two, it had 4 elements, so you will get 4 number of tuples only. Okay, it was happening in sequence. So the last tuple that you get inside the list is I comma 4 comma Z, and here you get your list of tuples. Okay, just run this. Then the next one is this one. my underscore zip is equals to, again you apply zip method or zip function. Inside this you pass the first iterable, which is a string value containing this word coding, how many number of elements or characters this first iterable, which is a string, it holds. Six number of elements it holds: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, comma, the second iterable. This is the second iterable, again, which is a tuple containing these values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So how many number of elements you've got here? Six number of elements you've got here. Okay, comma, then here you have a list. Here you have a list: x comma y, x comma y. X is the first element and y is the second element. So out of all these iterables, the third iterable contains the minimum number of elements. How many number of elements the third iterable, which is a list, contains? It contains two number of elements. So ultimately, when you apply the zip method, you get a when you get a when you apply zip method, you get a zip object, and then you typecast it to a list and you get a list of tuples. So how many number of tuples inside the list you will get? Two number of tuples you will get inside the list. Okay, so anyways, rest same. Print my underscore zip comma type my underscore zip, and for print my underscore for print my underscore zip, it will give you the zip object created at this memory address. What class? Class zip. And to fetch the elements from the zip object, I use this list method or list function, and inside this I pass this zip object, which is your my underscore zip. Okay, my underscore zip variable is nothing but your zip object. I pass this inside the list method or list function so as to typecast into a list. So this L will become a list object. Now print L comma type L comma id L. So first of all, print L. This list will be printed. This list of tuples, sorry, list of tuples will be printed. You have list, inside the list you have got this, tuples. This is the first tuple and this is the second tuple. Here we got only two number of tuples because mapping will happen for all the elements of all the iterables one by one in sequence. That means whatever minimum number of elements a particular iterable has got, that will be equals to the number of tuples inside the list. Here the list had two number of elements, so two, and this was the minimum number of elements for this iterable. So those many number of tuples you will get here only. Okay, so the first tuple, it will contain what? It will contain this C, which is the first element of the first iterable, mapped to 1, which is the first element of the second iterable, mapped to X, which is the first element of the third iterable. So C comma 1 comma X, C comma 1 comma X. This will be your first tuple. Then what will happen to the second tuple? Inside the second tuple, you will have what the second tuple inside this will have is sequentially now the second element of the first iterable map to second element of the second iterable, map to second element of the third iterable. So O comma 2 comma Y. Here you get O comma 2 comma Y, and that's what you get the list. Here you get the list inside which you have tuples, hence it is known as list of tuples. Just run it. So that's it for this class. If you've liked this class, you can hit the like, share, and subscribe button and press the bell icon for notifications. And we shall meet again in the next class. And you can leave out your thoughts and comments in the comment section. I will reply to them. So thank you.